history inside a nutshell, the show where we sail into our port of call discussing maritime history. The RMS Mauretania, the Great Lady of the Atlantic. The RMS Mauretania was one of Cunard Line's successful ships, yet her story has been overshadowed. This is partly due to her sinking of her sister ship, the Lusitania. Although she didn't sink, she had a successful career. Plus, she was one of a few ships that survived the First World War. And speaking of the Great War, there is an interesting fact where the Admiralty gave her a code name, the HMS Cherbros. She had that name until the end of the war. Her life may not be as grand as the Olympic-class liners, or rememberable as the Lusitania, but she will be remembered as the beautiful liner she is. In 1896, British shipping companies competed with the North German Lloyd Line. This shipping company had launched their new, fast and luxurious liner, the Kaiser Wilhelm de Gross. Because of the Kaiser Wilhelm, the North German line and then the Hamburg-Emek lines dominated the Atlantic. In response, the British White Star Line launched their newest liner, the Oceanic II. And when American financier J.P. Morgan bought out the company in 1902, another British liner company, the Cunard Line, knew that with the threat of being bought out or going into liquidation, Cunard wanted to construct a new class of liners. However, they didn't have enough money to do this. The British government authorised a loan of £2.6 million to pay for the construction and agreed to pay Cunard an additional £68,000 for the ships to carry mail. However, part of the agreement was that the British could use the ship as an auxiliary cruiser in the event of war. Cunard's two liners, the Mauretania and the Lusitania, were commenced within a day of each other, with the Mauretania's keel laid on the 18th of August 1904. The Mauretania was built at Wallsend on the Tyne River by the English firm of Swan Hunter and Wilhelm Richardson. When she was built, the Mauretania weighed at a tonnage of 31,938 GRT. She was 790 in length and her top cruising speed was 24 knots. However, her maximum speed would have been 27 knots. The Mauretania was launched on the 20th of September 1906, and on the 16th of November 1907 she began her maiden voyage. On her first voyage, she travelled from Liverpool to New York. However, it wasn't plain sailing. Being in cold November weather, the Mauretania was pummeled by severe weather conditions like enormous seas and high winds. Despite this, the voyage was successful. At the outbreak of the First World War, the Mauretania and her younger ship, the Aquitania, sought refuge in Halifax. The Lusitania remained in service, but when she sank in May 1915, the Mauretania was requisitioned by the Navy into a hospital ship. She was then transferred into a merchant cruiser. In her time as a troop ship, she transported thousands of Allied soldiers. After the war, the Mauretania resumed service. In the 1920s, many improvements have been made, including being refitted, and she was converted to oil from coal. She continued to sail with other liners, including the Olympic and the Majestic. When the Great Depression hit in the 1930s, the shipping industry was affected. The Mauretania also became affected when she got on with age. Although she made a series of pleasure cruises and was painted white for them, Cunard, who by that time was named Cunard White Star, withdrew Mauretania from service in September 1934. She was laid up at Southampton. In May 1935, after 28 years of service, a decision had been made to sell the Mauretania for scrap. The Mauretania made her final voyage to Rosyth. Before she made her final departure, a large crowd gathered to sing Auld Lang Syne as the ship was cast off in Southampton. One member who was in the crowd singing and saying goodbye was Captain Arthur Rostrum, who was the captain of the Carpathia during the Titanic disaster. The Mauretania was scrapped with all of her existence gone in 1937. Although we have only gone into a brief history of her, the Mauretania's life and career are fascinating. She is truly a lady of the Atlantic, and like many ships, she will never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe for future videos. Until next time, this has been History Inside a Nutshell, departing from the docks. Thank you so much for all of your support and enjoy the rest of your voyage.